Hello and welcome to Starts and Grafts. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you joining us for the first time, I'm Connor, and each week I'm joined on the podcast by an emerging artist to discuss their journeys so far, how their work's been affected by the pandemic, and what the future holds. My guest this week is a rapper and producer who performs under the name Easy Days. His debut track, It Figures, gained airtime on Hugh Stevens' BBC Radio 1 Introducing Show. His passions beyond music include film and TV, and I look forward to finding out a little more about what he's been up to in recent months. Callum Shaw, welcome to Starts and Grafts. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this.
I was saying before, it's really nice to see someone with a really decent setup. There's a bit of a recurring theme in the podcast where my guests have a really decent mic and all this stuff set up, and I'm recording in a wardrobe with the doors open to kind of capture the sound. It's a little bit of a contrast.
It's fine. all good, man.
I'm really glad that we've got you on the show because we've known each other since we were children.
Yeah.
But in recent years, we've only been able to kind of keep track of each other through bits of social media and stuff. So it's nice to actually have this time to kind of lock in a solid period where we can just have a chat about what you've been up to in particular.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's a weird one. Like you say, like we've known each other for, oh God, I don't know, it must have been like 10, 9, something like that. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice, like, just chatting and getting to know, what's been going on and stuff.
Yeah, I think a signifier of the time that's passed is a lot of our childhood was spent connecting Nintendo DS's
and God,
stuff. So that's how much time's passed since we've properly spent a lot of time with each other.
You're right.
So let's get down to it and let's start talking about you as a rapper and a producer, because I know you'd been doing quite a lot of things with your music last year. But the first thing that I want to look at is tell me a little bit about the name Easy Days. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so basically, like, I started originally uploading music to SoundCloud, and it was very different to what I currently make at the moment. I think it was just me sort of like trying to find my style and stuff. And I came up with this like dreadful name, which was Crowbar. At the time, I was like, this is sick. This is a fun, cool name. But yeah, I'm really gonna scrap that off. And then I started sort of taking music a bit more seriously, and I was like, right, I need a name that kind of like encapsulates the vibe of my music and sort of me as a person. And I'm a pretty like laid back, chill kind of guy. So I was like, Easy Days, it sort of encapsulates me and also the music that I'm creating. And yeah, I think that's sort of the reason, that's where it came from.
Nice. I mean, Crowbar probably was a 90s WWF wrestler anyway.
Oh, bad, man.
So I think it's quite a good thing.
I should have kept it quiet.
It's quite a good thing that I think Easy Days, like you said, completely encapsulates and reflects the music that you're currently making, which I think is fantastic, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But how did you come to the decision to use a pseudonym or stage name?
I don't know. For me, I just think when I hear Callum Shaw, I don't know, it just doesn't sound like a good artist name, like like David Bowie or something like that. Callum Shaw is just a really just a generic white male name. Like I just wanted something, I don't know, something a bit different.
No, fair. I completely get that. I think it's interesting. So when you perform, and do you take on, is it a persona, or are you very much just still you getting up on stage?
No, I think it's definitely still me. But I think it is nice having the artist as sort of a separate entity to yourself, because it sort of gives you a bit of extra creative license to maybe say things that you personally might not feel confident enough to say. So yeah, in that sense, I think it works out really well.
Now, so when was Easy Days born? You talked about all this music that you were previously making. When did you start making music as Easy Days?
So I think basically when I went to the Uni of York and I studied film and TV, and whilst I was there, I sort of, because I've played guitar for the past 11, 12 years, and when we're making films and stuff, I'd usually be making the music for it.
Right.
And from that, I sort of got into making my own music. I'm all self-taught with production. So I produce and mix and master everything myself. And I just learned it all, and it sort of came from uni.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously did the Crowbar shit, and then once I'd finished uni and sort of, I knew the ins and outs of Logic and music production and stuff. I was like, right, you know what? I need to get get a track down of where I'm up to now, and get sort of easy days going, really.
I think that's really interesting though, because you said you picked up a lot of the production side of things at uni because you were doing that for your film and TV production course. But with the rapping side of things, I'm so fascinated by that because at school we generally just learn music as a subject, and we kind of start off on a more traditional path when we're in primary school and learn the basics and then veer into other things. But as far as I was aware, well, as far as I was taught, rap music never really came into the curriculum at all, and we never even got a chance to explore that. So how did you find that you could rap?
So I only really got into like hip hop and rap over the past like 5 years, maybe like just before I sort of started going to uni. And I've just always loved it. Like I just think it's just such a different medium to, like singing,
Mm,
because at a basic level you are saying more words in those 3 minutes and 30.
mm.
And there's also, because of you saying more words, it can often be harder to craft a story and a narrative. And often the rhyme schemes are really, really clever, and there's a lot of punchlines and stuff like that. And I think that's what really interested me. And then I just remember one time I'd made this song on my laptop, and I started writing some lyrics down, but they were really just heavily there was just a lot, of words,
Mm.
so I couldn't like fit them into a sort of singing style. So I did
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
like a spoken word style and chucked it up on SoundCloud, and didn't think anything of it. But I got like some good feedback from some of my friends, and they were like, "Oh, Callum can spit a bit." So I was like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I should like give this a go." And then it sort of came from there, really.
I really, really rate that, just giving it a go and trying to find out if it works for you, really. You mentioned spoken word there. Do you approach it like poetry in any way when you're writing lyrics?
In a way, yeah. Because I think getting down to the base of it, like that's what rap is. It is spoken word to music. But I think in terms of writing it, just it's very different from song to song. Like sometimes it might be that the lyrics come first, and other times it might be that the beat comes first, or a sample will make me feel this kind of way, and then it works that way. Like usually they sort of tend to work. It's like a bit of like a symbiotic relationship. I might write 16 bars of a song and then do my first verse, and then I might change it up a bit and write a bit more of the song and add a bit more lyrics. Like it sort of builds up in that way.
Yeah, so your approach sounds quite free in that sense. There's no one approach fits all.
Yeah, although like I would consider myself an artist, like I'm still just finding my way. Like I'm still trying to work out how to do this. Like I still don't really know everything about not only making music but the industry itself. So I'm just trying to find my way, and that's kind of how I make my music, really.
Sure, but that's really cool. And what we just talked about, though, we talked about this idea of learning.
Yeah,
You've just admitted there you're still learning yourself. And I mean, artists, years and years and years into the career, are still learning in that respect.
yeah.
But yeah, I just thought the idea of poetry and stuff was really interesting, and spoken word, because like I said, it's not something that we get to learn about and try and find out that we can just naturally do. So yes, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that with us, really.
Yeah, no worries, man.
What kind of things do you like to write about? What is your lyrical inspiration generally?
Um, if I'm being honest, a lot of the time it's just because like just something's pissed me off and I just want to rant about it.
Yeah?
The majority of the time, that's sort of why I start writing something, but it just comes from anywhere really. Like anything, like I think that's what any artist would say. It could be anything. It could be something as simple as something that I've seen on TV, or someone that I've walked past in the street, or sometimes it might be like just two words that pop up in my head that I think sound good together. That might be the spark that then ignites a whole song. It really depends. It just changes every time.
So should we expect a song then about Manchester being placed into tier 3 today?
Oh no, no. Like, I mean, yeah, like this is the thing about that is like I don't know about you, but for me, I want to listen to music as an escape.
Mm,
I don't really want to hear songs about being in lockdown. I don't want to hear songs about coronavirus and stuff. That's the last thing that I want. Like if I see stuff about coronavirus on TV, it's getting switched off.
yeah.
Like it's all around us 24/7, and I want to have that as an escape. So the answer to that one is no, it will not.
Well, I know I'm glad to hear that, and that's really interesting because a lot of guests that I've had on so far, whether they've just been performers or they've been, musicians that write their own music as well, have talked about this almost a bit of a struggle really to find inspiration within the current climate. And
Yeah.
the episode that was out last week was Velvet Shakes, Anthony Hickey, and they released a song called World, which was almost about travelling, and it completely provides that sense of escapism that you were just
Yeah.
talking about. But in terms of the music that you've been making, you picked up a nice bit of momentum back in 2019. Your first single, It Figures, was played on Hugh Stevens' Radio 1 Introduction show. Not bad going for a debut single, is it?
Oh mate, it was insane when that happened. Like basically, the way that song was made was I'd been out the night before with a few friends, and then they'd stayed over here, and we'd just been up in the loft that I'm in now, where I've got all my music equipment. And me and my friend Lewis, who goes by Diminutive Arthur, who's on the track, we were just messing around and playing with something. I laid these keys down, and he was like, "Oh, you know what? That's really nice, man. Like, let's lay something on top and blah blah." And we were just messing around and having a laugh because we were both a bit hungover and we just weren't taking it seriously. It ended up coming out pretty good, so I was like, cool, whatever. I was like, you know what, this would be cool. I'll chuck it on Spotify. Hopefully, a couple of people listen to it. It might be pretty cool. And then I thought I'll upload it to the BBC Music Introducing Uploader.
Sure.
Did not think anything would come of it. And then, a couple of weeks passed by and I was in Yes in Manchester with Lewis up on the roof terrace, and we were both just having a pint and chilling. And we were actually talking about music and whatever, and we were both taking the piss out of each other and being like, wouldn't it be cool if like we got on the radio one day or something? And I was like, yeah, like fucking whatever, man. Like, yeah, that'd be cool, all right. And then I got a notification on my phone. This story sounds bullshit, but it's honestly how it went.
Yeah.
I got a notification on my phone and it said BBC Radio 1 or whatever, and I was like, oh, like whatever. I put the phone down and ignored it, and then had a look again. I read it, and it was like, oh, your music has been chosen to appear on Hugh Stevens' BBC Radio 1 Music Introducing show. And I was like, wait, what? Like, that's wrong. I was like, that can't be right. Because obviously I read Radio 1 and I was like, whoa, that's a big radio station.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think we were just jumping up and bouncing about everywhere. And everyone was like looking at us like, what are these two nut jobs
What are you doing?
And then the whole way home, the whole drive home, me and Lewis just had the song on repeat and just kept listening to it. But yeah, that's how that came about.
Like I was saying, that's insane for a first single. And because I think I'm right in saying that you've got the local BBC introducing stations as well, but to go straight to the Hugh Stevens Radio 1 show is pretty impressive. Do you enjoy collaborating quite a lot? Is that something that you hope to do in future a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, me and Lewis, we're always like making beats and stuff like that, and jumping on each other's tracks and things. And I recently linked up with there's another rapper from Bolton called Superlative, who's really good, who you should check out. He's just got a tune out with Mr. Scruff. I linked up with him, when we were out of the major lockdown and we had some sort of free time. I linked up with him and laid down some guitar for him on a track and stuff. So yeah, it's really nice meeting up with different artists and collaborating, even if the songs don't come to fruition and they never get put out there. It's just, it opens your eyes to different ways of doing things, especially with like rappers. It's different, different cadences and different performing styles. So yeah, it's, I think it's great. Like, it's an invaluable thing to do for anyone who's creating music.
So you'd had that BBC One airtime. Had you done any standout performances or any live gigs last year that kind of stick out?
So if I'm being honest, I've actually only ever performed once live. And it wasn't really as Easy Days.
Yeah.
It was just me as a person, and it was at the Old Pint Pot in Salford. And it was just me using my guitar, my looper pedal, and a beat pad, and just playing a few different tunes and stuff. But that was good. I really enjoyed it. But I wouldn't necessarily say I've performed yet as quote-unquote Easy Days.
Obviously, I'm assuming you'd have hoped to have done that if this year would have planned out differently to what it has.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, during lockdown, I did a Facebook Live gig for Reform Radio, which is a station in Manchester. But the majority of that was it was for the World Jazz Day. So it was 25 minutes of, I think it was 5 or 6 my favourite tunes that I'd done a jazzy rendition of on guitar. Yeah, I've not really performed yet as Easy Days.
So how weird was it then doing that live stream?
Oh, mate, I hated it. I hated it so much.
Really?
I think this is the case for a lot of artists. I have really, really bad imposter syndrome. Really bad. Whenever I put a song out and someone says, oh, that's really good, blah, blah, that, I don't rate it. I think it's awful, and it's just something that's always in my head.
Yeah.
And I think I recorded that gig about 4 separate times. So in total, it took me 2.5 hours to record it, and I nearly didn't send it off. Because I hated it. I hated watching myself. But my brother and my girlfriend and my family were just like, Callum, just stop being a bitch. Send it off. It'll be fine. And it went really well.
That's almost worse with things because that's like a premiere setup, isn't it? You send the video off and then it's streamed.
Yeah.
not necessarily live, it's in real time that's being played or whatever. But when you can look back before you send something off and be able to reflect on it, it's almost the worst thing you can do. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been listening back to these podcasts before they get sent out, and I'm not someone that's familiar with listening to my own voice. I'd never have claimed to be an experienced interviewer. So like listening back to things, and it's a really interesting process, reflecting and then putting it out there for everyone to see.
Yeah. I mean, can I just say though, like, you're doing an amazing job so far. Like, the first 2 episodes have been fantastic. Really enjoying them.
My imposter syndrome's been triggered now, so cheers for that. But no, for anyone that doesn't know Reform Radio, it's a not-for-profit radio station based in Manchester, like you said. They not only support emerging talent, but they run some really good employment workshops and creative opportunities. They even gave you that chance to do that stream. Do you take a lot of inspiration from jazz?
I do really love jazz, but I don't listen to like jazz music per se. Like, the way that I sort of got into jazz was through hip hop, and obviously a lot
Yeah.
of classic hip hop records sample jazz. Like, Tom Misch was a massive influence on me, and obviously his is very jazz based.
Latest record's incredible.
Oh, mate, so good,
And it's a
man.
collaboration as well, isn't it? Because he's working with
Yeah,
Yusuf Days, and it's fantastic.
yeah. And then I'm also into like neo soul's a really big influence on me. Like, I love it. I love it. I love the samples that's used. I love, anything that's played in the roads, I'll listen to. I just adore it.
Bits of saxophone in Metamorphosis, is that right, in the background?
Yeah, that's right.
So you released your single NRG?
Yeah, energy, yeah.
Energy, I've got it now. Sorry for that. That was such a dad kind of interpretation. So let's just start that bit again. You released your single Energy just before lockdown, but your most recent single Metamorphosis was released a couple of months ago. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so basically at the start of lockdown, I was kind of like, right, I've got all this free time. I want to make a track, and yeah, I've got all this free time. Like, I want to make a really good track and get some really good lyrics down. So yeah, basically, I bought it's called an SP404, and it's basically like a beat pad, a sampling pad. So you have 16 pads, and I was messing around on that, and I came up with this little loop that I really liked. And then from there, the lyrics came and the track came about. And then, I dropped it on Spotify. And then it managed to get picked up by a couple of playlists, which really helped it out. And then, decided, after I got a bit of traction with it, I was like, it's probably a shout to get a music video sorted. So then, went and recorded the music video.
Because I'd listened to the track, which I think is great, and I was kind of listening to lots of people that I knew when preparing for the podcast, and I kind of curated this initial list. And then it was Anthony Hickey from Velvet Shakes that went, "You have seen the music video, haven't you?" And I was like, "No." And I checked out the music video, which I thought was fantastic, and I really want to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, cheers.
It's so thoughtfully done. Your experience of learning film and TV production, did that feed into the making of the music video quite a lot?
So, not particularly, actually. Basically, the way that it came about was a couple of my friends from uni, Sean and Finbar, started their own production company called Umbra Motion Pictures. And they got in contact and said, "Listen, like, hope all's going well. We've heard your tune, and we'd love to like make a music video for it if you were up for it." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And then basically, they sent through some ideas and I sent through some ideas, and then they got back to me with like a treatment, so like a pitch for the idea. And it was a really good idea, and I really trusted them as filmmakers anyway, because from working with them at uni, they were two people that I always knew were like head screwed on. They know exactly what they're doing. So yeah, we managed to get it sorted. We sourced all the locations and any props and stuff that we needed. And then we shot it in I think it was Stratford upon Avon or something. I can't really remember, but
In the summer?
Yeah, in the summer, yeah. And yeah, it went really well. The only thing that I'd say is when they first sent the treatment through, they sent me the treatment and there was this paragraph about like, oh, and then Callum's in the forest with his top off, dancing. And my first thought was like, I was like, right, okay. I was like, this doesn't really sound like me. So I messaged them back. I was like, "Listen, I really trust you guys, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not about this bit." And they were like, "Listen, Callum," he was like, "we've got an idea in mind. Please trust us and please go with it." So I was like, "Oh, I mean, I don't really want to, but I fucking will. It'll be fine." And then we got there and we shot for the first day, we shot all the bits inside, and the second day we went to the forest. And then we got to the forest and they were like, "All right, take your top off." I was like, "All right, okay, cool." And then they were like, "Right, okay, just dance." And I was like, yeah, I was like, that's not going to work. You're going to have to tell me what you need me to do.
Bit more direction needed, please.
Yeah, so they show me these couple of references like from music videos and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, okay, I kind of get it. So I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I need to commit to it. Otherwise, it's gonna come off. People are gonna know that I'm not into it. They're gonna think it's ridiculous and it's stupid.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I just commit to it and properly go for it, hopefully it'll come off well. And hopefully it did. And it works.
I personally think it works. I think it fits completely. And the sections where it's cutting across from you in the forest and you in the bedroom, there's basically two main kind of settings and locations for it. And when it's crossing between the two, it works so well. Anyone can check that out on YouTube. I mean, you can find the song Metamorphosis on Spotify and all the streaming platforms. But there's been so much thought that's clearly gone into the video. I really would recommend checking it out on YouTube. One question that popped to mind as soon as I saw it, we only see you in the video. You're the only person in the video. Was that an artistic choice or one that COVID forced you into making?
That's a good question. I think really it was just the idea for the music video because I have to pay for this all myself because I'm not signed to a label or anything. So it was kind of like, well, if I get someone else, I'm just gonna have to pay them. So I was like, I'll just do it myself. I'll just be in it.
No, that's fair enough. Should we give it a listen?
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce the track?
Yeah. So this is my third release that I dropped a few months ago now. It's called Metamorphosis, and I hope you all enjoy it.
Past particle pictures from an hourglass. Our time wasted past scripture, past the power tax. Ask the man a question, ain't no money, said the market crash. Thank the man for lessons, gained a PhD in kissing ass up. Metamorphoses, search for answers at the bottom of a bag of cheese. Dusty baggies in the corner, then you comfort eat. Assure your ego stays in line with a couple keys. Dancing at a single popping. Double E, smoking apes and hour cause you couldn't sleep. Metamorphoses, what you shoulda, woulda, coulda been.
Just be here, kid. You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before. You just gotta bend your knees, take a deep breath, and jump.
Cocoon goon, lose a loner, sat on the precipice. Press the people close while you're sitting in your chrysalis. Quest to find a moolah, but the brother pocket stiff, dead weight, jailbait, psycho killer, penniless. Metamorphoses, search for answers at the bottom of a bag.
So that was Callum's latest single, Metamorphosis. Please check it out. I told you where you can find that already. You were just talking about budget and things like that, and another part of being an independent artist is having to kind of promote the single and find bits of PR and stuff like that. How have you approached that so far? And I'm guessing it's something that you really have to learn on the job.
Yeah, not something I ever really considered when I first started making music. I sort of always assumed, which, in hindsight is a bit naive of me, was that when a song pops off and gets really big, it's pure luck. Like someone just pushes that song out there, puts it on Spotify. The next day, somehow it's got 1 million views. That's how I thought it worked.
Yeah.
Which I can promise you is not the case. I mean, realistically, I'd probably say it's more like 20% music creation and 80% actually pushing the music and pushing yourself as an artist on social.
There's a lot of admin to it, isn't there?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like you do have to have a bit of a business head screwed on. Like you've got to be submitting to playlists, you've got to be getting in contact with local radio stations, submitting to BBC Music Introducing, coming up with promo videos, promo pictures. There's a lot that goes into it that I think a lot of people might not see because it's often behind the scenes.
I think that really links into our artist advice for the week, which comes from Gemma Woofenden, she's the director of youth theatre at the Leeds Playhouse, supporting so many young creatives and has even mentored some of the freelance creatives that have been furloughed throughout lockdown through something called the Exchange Project. But basically the crux of her advice is to be brave and reach out to people. And for me, that's absolutely spot on. And it sounds like what you've just been talking about. You've literally just had to put yourself out there so much and reach out to people in order to get bits of airtime and things such as that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's great advice. As an artist, you have to believe in yourself, and sometimes you do have to be a bit big-headed, and you have to go, you know what, like, I am proud of this music or this film or whatever it is that you're creating, and be confident with it and push it out there and, tell people about it. Be proud of it. I think if you're proud of it and you believe in it, then why wouldn't other people?
It's like that imposter syndrome that you were talking about before. For me, making this podcast, like I was saying, I've not got a particular wealth of experience in it, but it was an idea that I had during lockdown from listening to, lots of famous and well-established artists, which was fantastic and inspiring. But I was also thinking, I really want to talk about the people that are, this year was going to be a big year for them, and I want to talk to them.
Yeah.
And I was umming and ahhing with the idea, and part of me was thinking, Connor, why you? Like, why do you think you're the right person to do this? And I'm not expecting any praise in return. I'm just, I was just thinking, why you? And I spoke to a few people about it, and they went, that sounds like a good idea, just do it. And you've just got to bite the bullet sometimes, haven't you? And then in terms of reaching out, we've been emailing all these people, and most of them don't get back to us, but most of the guests that we asked to do it are so grateful when we ask them. And it's almost a bit of a validation. Sometimes you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing. It's a really weird feeling, isn't it?
100%. Like, I definitely get what you're saying about the validation thing. That's a big one. Like, to go back to the imposter syndrome, for example, it's all well and good for your friends and your family to go, oh, your music's great, I love it. But that's, they've got to say that. Or your girlfriend to say it. They've got to say it. It's nice when you get sort of a third party who doesn't really know you that well, or, a radio station or whatever that says, you know what, this is good. And then you're kind of like, oh, wait, maybe this is actually pretty good. Maybe I should carry on doing it and pushing it.
It's that little boost that you need sometimes. So I really enjoyed chatting about the music side of things, and I look forward to listening to a little bit more afterwards. But like we've talked about, TV and production is such an important thing to you. It's what you studied at uni, and part of the podcast is looking at the things that people have been doing to support them in their creative endeavours. I know you've been working today, and I think you're working full time at the moment. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you're doing for work?
Yeah, so currently at the moment I'm a production runner, and I work on The Circle, which is on Channel 4.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people have seen it, if I'm being honest, but
I've seen it through Gogglebox, but that's how I watch a lot of my TV anyway. But
I know it's really popular in America as well, and I think it was kind of brought in to fill the gap that was left by Big Brother. So we're kind of hoping that over the next few years it gains a lot of traction and starts to get more popular. But my lockdown's been a weird one because of this job, because I've been working 6 days a week, 60 hours a week with 1 day off since the end of July. So for me, this lockdown is like, it doesn't really make a difference. The only thing is I can't finish work after a long day and go grab a pint. That's the only thing.
And then you've been trying to do your music alongside that, and film stuff and film a music video alongside a 6 day week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why over the past 4 months, I've kind of took a bit of a hiatus and a step back from making music, because all of my efforts have been put into work at the moment, and I've just not really been in the right headspace to be making music. For me, it has to be like, I hate using this word, but like, there has to be like a vibe. I have to be feeling it. And if I'm not, I know that what I'm creating isn't true to me. It's not how I'm feeling at that time.
It's almost forced.
Yeah, definitely. But it's been an absolute blessing working during this, because, it's kept me sane.
Like we talked about, it's about surviving, doing what you need to do to keep sane. And I'm glad that you've been able to find that through work. Because I remember, so I'm going to name drop your mum now. I know I know your mum from doing, theatre across Bolton, and she's an extremely creative person, is Sharon. She's a wonderful character actress. But I remember probably in the start of 2019, we'd both just graduated from uni in 2018.
Yeah.
I was working at a Next or a retailer. We'll see how we can edit that depending on how that sounds. I can't remember exactly what you were doing. I think you were working in a restaurant or something like that anyway. And I remember constantly checking in with your mum about, we were both kind of trying to get into some sort of creative career. And I remember you getting your first job as a runner. I think it was at some point in 2019, and I got a job in Manchester working at the International Festival. I just thought it was really nice, because I remember it was nice to know that somebody else had graduated uni, had this period of time where they weren't particularly doing what they wanted, but they were doing something to have a bit of cash. And then to see that you'd also finally got your step in the door doing something creative was such a nice thing to be kind of working alongside.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, it was like, for a period of time, it was kind of like I was catching up with you, but just through my mum. My mum would be like, oh, seeing Connor today, Connor said this, he's doing this. And I'm like, oh, cool. I was like, when you see him, tell him this, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Like, it's just nice seeing your friends do well and doing what they want to do.
That's the beauty of this podcast. I've been so lucky to interview so many friends, and now we're starting to branch out and interview people that I don't even know, but I'm interviewing them, and I'm so proud of what they're doing, because they're just giving off such a good feel and such a good vibe. You studied film and TV at uni, as I've probably said far too many times now, but how did you decide which you wanted to go into career-wise, or how do you get the balance between that and music?
So when I finished uni, I worked at a restaurant for a bit. I worked at a pub for a bit, and then it got to a point where I was like, I was applying for jobs, but very sporadically, and it wasn't getting me anywhere. So I got to a point where I was like, right, Callum, you need to try and give this a proper go. Otherwise, you've done 3 years at uni for nothing. So I ended up leaving the pub, and for about 3 months, I used to spend like 3-4 hours a day applying for jobs, and then luckily managed to land a job on Dickinson's Real Deal.
Okay.
Yeah, fantastic show. And
Did you meet him?
I did, yeah. I actually corrected him once while he was on screen, which I'm really proud of.
Wow.
But yeah, no, yeah, that's how I sort of got into it. And then in terms of like finding a balance between that and music, it definitely is a hard one. But it also working in TV also lends itself to having a lot of free time in between jobs, because how it works for me is I work contracts. So for example, now I'm on it's like a 4-month contract, then it'll finish and I have to find work after that. So if I want in between those jobs, if I can save up a bit of money, it gives me the time to spend on making music and getting tunes out there and doing the boring admin stuff. And then I can get another job. So it does work really well, actually.
Nice. I think it's good that you're able to find something, like you said, where you can really balance the two. Like I said, I'm so glad that you're enjoying it. So let's now take a look back at some of your earlier memories, being creative and making. What are your first memories of making music?
I think like music in general and like in sort of playing an instrument, playing guitar. I remember in primary school, a friend of mine, we do like those year 6 levers
Yeah.
dues.
The levers
Yeah,
assemblies,
and one of my friends at the time, he just started playing guitar and he played guitar at that. And I remember sitting there and being like, that is the coolest thing ever. I was like, he is so cool. And I was like, I want to do that. So then when I got to secondary school in year 7, started having guitar lessons. And previously I'd had, when I was about 8 or 9, I did a bit of piano and stuff. But yeah, it's always been like obviously, like you said about my mum's always been into musical theatre.
Yeah.
And I dabbled in that again when I was younger, obviously with you.
Which you were quite good at. You always got the parts over me, so fair play. You obviously have a bit of a knack for it. But yeah, it's good that you actually then went on to play the guitar. I remember my year 6 Levers performance. I think I mimed the guitar to several Oasis songs.
Nice.
Not very convincingly, but I think my dad forced me to get on stage and do it because the other parents would enjoy it.
I rate it.
But yeah, and then obviously you've then gone to uni. But do you remember when you first started writing music and how that came about? Because I think I mean, a lot of us when we're children play about writing little bits of silly things and it sounds a bit soppy and it's all a bit ridiculous. But when did you think, actually, I'm all right at this?
It took me ages. Like, basically, obviously started playing guitar and then I always tried to write stuff, but I was like, this is such a monumental task to do. Like, to come up with, the chords and lyrics that fit it and lyrics that don't sound cheesy and actually mean something. It always just seemed like climbing Mount Everest to me. It was like something that was just implausible. I wasn't going to be able to do it. And then I started just dabbling about and doing bits and bobs and then like writing a line here and there. And then it just sort of came. I don't really know how it came about. It just sort of materialized and I was kind of like, you know what, to me this sounds all right and I think it doesn't sound too ridiculous and maybe people would want to listen to it, so I'll start recording and getting stuff out there.
Are you hoping to get writing again soon? Have you got a deadline on this contract which will free you up a little bit of time to start writing again?
Yeah, definitely. So I finish on this contract on the 4th of December and then basically at the moment I have maybe a few days here and there of work lined up, but I'm moving into a new house next week and I'm going to have, luckily I've managed to get a spare room to put all my equipment in.
I was going to say, because like we said, you've got an impressive little home studio setup going on there, so you're going to be able to take that with you.
Yeah, so take that with me and then basically what I'm intending to do is just, so all of my friends that I'm living with are working from home, so I'm going to get up as they do and I'm going to work a 9 to 5 but be sat in the studio making music, writing and just because for me like that's like my escape and I've not really been able to do that for this job, so I'm really looking forward to just getting back into it.
Sounds perfect. So we've just talked about obviously your plans to get into music. What's going to lie after that? What lies ahead for you after that? When let's say when the vaccines come out, what are you hoping to achieve?
That's a good question, man. I think next year I definitely want to build up more of a presence and more of sort of like a rapport. So I want to try and be getting out. I think realistically, getting out a track every 2 months is a
Right.
pretty, realistic goal to achieve. Because basically, obviously, I said before about not having performed live as of yet. I kind of want to get a bit of a back catalogue before I do that. Because at the moment,
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
3 tunes. So it's just kind of building up my repertoire of music. And collabing with people and just having a good time. Just that's all I want to do next year is just have a good time, just spend the whole year smiling because I've definitely not done that this year.
I mean, well, yeah, for so many of us, but I think that approach is very likely as well to yield some really good music and some really good stuff. What you've got already is a fantastic foundation from what you've been talking about. So we're coming towards the end of the end of the conversation, the end of the episode. As I do with all my guests, they get a little bit of a chance to just reference or discuss a few people, places or things that have helped them and just supported them on their way so far. And I'm going to give you the chance to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd definitely say, I don't know the guy, I've never met the guy, but Hugh Stevens, Radio 1, getting that track on, that was like fucking brilliant. I still can't believe that happened, and it's definitely helped solidify me as an artist. I'd say, obviously, the classic girlfriend, friends, family, but, it's boring, everyone says that.
But they're the people that spur you on, especially now.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And they're always there for me, and they're always the people that have got my back, and they're always like, yeah, Callum, this music's good, push it out there. So, yeah, definitely want to say thanks to those guys. And then also, I think in terms of like influences and stuff like that, there's people like MF Doom, who's just one of the greatest rappers to have ever lived. Like, his lyricism is just insane. Like I say, Tom Mish as a producer. And then definitely Loyal Kana as well. He's a massive influence on not only like the music and the beats, but the my cadence and my style and what I talk about.
You talk about cadence. Let's just unpick that a little bit more for listeners if they don't know necessarily what a cadence is. What role does that play within a song as a rapper?
So basically, cadence is pretty much what makes the difference between reading poetry out loud and rapping. It's the way in which you say the words and how long you say each word for, or where you place those words in the timing, in terms of in relation to where the kick hits or where the snare hits in your song. Yeah, it's basically like cadence is what makes each specific rapper sound like each specific rapper, basically.
Sure, it's what makes them unique then.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Sound. So let's play you out with one of your tracks. Do you want to introduce what we're going to listen to finish off the episode?
Yeah, of course, no worries. This is It Figures, my very first ever debut track. I hope you all enjoy it.
I'll wait till the times change, till the girls come, bring the heartache, bring the love, bring the pain. Spend my days getting messy in the cold rain. Like the feeling I'm feeling. One steak and a wine in the evening. Cold train, Vandross, MG got a sexual healing.
Cold nights on my ones at the station. Street lights shine when my soul hits the pavement. Man's adjacent. Too many guys wanna be known, that's blatant. Stone eyes, I ain't worried about payments. Close mouth when the piggies want a statement. I'll wait, you know, cause I've always been patient.
I'll never be the one for the first place. That's calm, no love lace, tight face. Kiss a cheek, see a sad face. Wave goodbye, call her first base.
That was Callum, aka Easy Days, with his debut track, It Figures. I'd like to say a huge thanks to Callum for joining me. We had such a great time putting this episode together, so I do hope that you've all enjoyed it. Don't forget to watch the music video for Metamorphosis on YouTube, and you can find the rest of his music on all the usual streaming platforms. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at startsandgrafts. I've been your host Connor, Ella's been your producer, and there won't be an episode next week, but we'll be back in the new year. So until then, have a very Merry Christmas and take care.